Welcome to the Primacoustic Podcast. Today we are talking with Marty Nightingale of Paramount Automation in Vancouver, Canada. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the company does, and specifically in the home automation side and the corporate installation side for AV and other things. We're going to talk about what Paramount does with regards to acoustic panels, and particularly the Primacoustic acoustic panels. And most specifically, we're going to talk about the paintable side of acoustic panels and why that's important. So, Marty, thank you for taking time to join us today, and look forward to speaking to you.
All right, I'm looking forward to it.
Talk a little bit about what Paramount Automation is, as from a positioning standpoint of what the company is all about.
We are in, like you said, in Vancouver, so there's a big need for custom homes and high-end residential. That's mostly what we're about. We do audio, video, home control, so shading, lighting, all of those things that fall under that. We typically only did acoustic panels really for our theaters, but then we started to notice a big need for more commercial spaces, restaurants, athletic facilities, and therapy places. So we started kind of launching into that, and it's really kind of taken off for us.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I know one of the projects we had talked about recently was a commercial property there in, I believe, Vancouver, a commercial property, QuadReal. Talk a little bit about the process of how that conversation got started and how ultimately you got to talking about installing the Primacoustic panels in the corporate space there, and then eventually what the paintables component of that was all about.
Okay, so as you mentioned, QuadReal, they're a property management group in Vancouver. They manage large commercial spaces, buildings across Canada. I'm not sure about the States, I would imagine. And their corporate office here, they have several meeting rooms and boardrooms, which they do conference calling. And it became frustrating for them to try to do a call remotely to another client or another office, and they couldn't really hear each other very well due to all the concrete and everything that's in those spaces. So they reached out, I think, first to Primacoustic, looking for a solution, and then Primacoustic reached out to us, and because we have a spray booth, then proceeded.
What were some of the problems you mentioned? The walls, was it reverb, echo, sound bleed? What types of problems were they having that the acoustic panels were intended to solve?
Yeah, so I think primarily was during conference calls, but also just in having a meeting locally with just people within the room, having, echo and reverb. So on a conference call, the echo and really interfered with the beneficial part of the meeting. A lot was lost. So David Docker from QuadReal was looking to fix that.
And then with regards to the decor of the room or the ambiance of the room, I know one of the things that you guys special in terms of beyond the home automation side, I know you mentioned a lot of home theater and a lot of home-based work, but also in the commercial space, and particularly in this commercial space, one of the things that they were looking for was not only the acoustic solution for those problems, reverb and echo, but also they needed the ultimate feel and look of the room to match, to have the ambiance match what the decor of the office here. So I believe you guys looked at the paintables solution there, and talk a little bit about what the paintables are and why that's an important product for you guys in terms of not only the commercial but the home installation.
Well, being like a corporate office, they have, it's quite a fancy office. So they didn't just have acoustic panels just hanging there or on the wall. They wanted to really embrace it. So their corporate logos has 4 different colors in it. So then we matched those. They have 4 floors. So each floor has a color, theme color, and then we sprayed those panels to match that color. The color matched it, and then installed each floor with their colors.
And talk a little bit about the process of color matching. That's very interesting. So how intricate that gets in terms of making sure that you match the color specifically, and then some of the challenges with transferring that color to an acoustic panel, because the panel itself is not obviously a hard surface. So talk a little bit about the process of how challenging it is to make sure that color matches on a panel like that.
Starting out, they come in a bright white primed panel that's paintable. It's a paintable surface. So we had to coordinate with the designers to get their color palette, and then I proceeded to take some samples, just the cuts of some old panels, and test sprayed them in our spray booth, and then delivered them on site and talked with their designer there to make sure they were happy with the end result, that it matched what they had on each floor. And then once we got the go-ahead, we then sprayed each floor with each panel.
So with the paintable solutions from Primacoustic, what does that component of being able to offer that paintable side of the acoustics solution, does the ability to be able to paint and match the decor of the room help you in terms of your overall sales process?
People really seem to like having us matching whatever colors. Many office spaces go through a lot of time and effort to achieve a certain look. And then when we're able to come in and just take that color and just make it part of the room, it really makes the panels just kind of blend in and make it actually a feature of the room, as opposed to something that kind of stands out and it seems like an afterthought. It seems like it's been part of the process all along. The QuadReal in particular, they actually used it more like an art piece. Like it's a feature of the room as opposed to like just being functional. It actually looks nice.
What are some of the other projects you've done, from commercial to home or whatever? Some of the things that you've done, and what were some of the challenges that you experienced with those, and how did the Primacoustic panels help with that?
We've done a pretty big project in Science World downtown Vancouver, and again, color matching was key to getting that job. I think most spaces, they have designers now, like commercial spaces, and if we're able to go into those spaces and work with the designer and color not to be an issue, we seem to be able to get the job, and the satisfaction of the customer and everyone is really overwhelming how satisfied they are with the final outcome.
Talk a little bit about the process, what's involved in terms of putting paint on a panel, and how delicate that process might be, because a panel, obviously its first role is to absorb sound, then how that paint could or could not interact with the principle of being able to absorb sound.
The key there is being it sprayed on, not like rolled on, because those panels are designed particularly to absorb the sound. So if you're just going to paint over with a roller, it changes the performance of the panel. It still performs, but not as well as being sprayed. So the key is the light coats of paint, and you're able to cover all the uneven surfaces without really filling in all the acoustic properties of that panel.
Talk about some of the other types of businesses where you've installed acoustic panels and the purpose for installing those panels.
One that comes to mind right off is Coast Rehab in North Vancouver. They're a treatment facility for athletes that are injured, and they have a beautiful space there. But again, most of the spaces these days have an open concept with no finished ceiling on them, just concrete and ducting on the ceiling, and a lot of glass. So they really like that look. But then when they're starting to treat the patients, they realize that from one room to the next, you could really hear conversations that maybe, you don't want to hear, or it's private conversations. And just the overall volume was quite causing irritation. So by putting the panels in, it really lowered that, and it just makes it a more of a clinical space, and the patients and the the owners at Coast Performance Rehab really seem to love what we did there.
What are some of the trends that you're seeing that are sort of things that are starting to happen now that you're seeing that maybe weren't happening 6 months or a year ago?
Well, talking with Oxford Properties, they're also another management company we work with. They rent out spaces downtown and again across Canada, and they're really looking for long-term leases. So most people that want to lease now want that open concept look with the ducting and not the drop ceiling. Of years ago, that used to be a common thing, but now they want the modern look. So they've actually ripped out a lot of the drop ceilings and gone ahead and renovated these spaces to try to coax long-term leases. And of course, when they stripped it all back with the concrete floors, they realized that no one can have a conversation. So then we've worked with them on multiple spaces within their buildings downtown, and we're kind of just a constant feature in a lot of their jobs now. And now they're able to attract customers that again will stick around for a while.
And in those particular instances, what are you doing acoustics-wise to help address that open office or that drop where they've taken out the drop ceiling? Is that an acoustic cloud?
We use the Nimbus a lot. They're a 2x4 panel. They're 1.5 inches thick. And we often will leave it just the white. We don't even have to paint it. There are occasions when we do, but in those spaces, they usually have just a bright white ceiling. All the ducting's been sprayed. So when we put those in, they just blend in, and there's some conversation sometimes about what's it going to look like. I have some pictures to show them, but once they see it, they just all agree that it just kind of fits in with the space because of the ducting at multiple levels and all of the cabling that's up there. By just making them different levels and orientating them different ways, it really just looks like it's part of the ceiling. And then for the walls, we're able to, if they have a wall color, then maybe we'll use a different panel for the walls, and those we've sprayed and blend in as well.
Well, Marty, thank you for your time. That's been great. It's been really interesting to hear the types of projects you guys are involved in, particularly with the ability to use the Primacoustic Paintables panels in your installations and commercial and home installs. And we look forward to hearing more about what you guys are up to and all of the different types of new trends and installations that you guys are involved in.
Thank you.